I'm working on a 2008 Honda St1300, and I'm having to do a clutch slave cylinder. I took apart quite a bit of the bike. Got the exhaust coming loose. The foot peg here is loose, and I think I'm fixing to get interrupted. Had to take the battery out just to get that loose. Then found out it don't go there. You have to come down here, take that panel right there off, and get under the bike.
You had your screw to try to put the seat back on, remember?
Yeah, I know, but I put tools in here, so I'll have tools in here.
Well, I was just right there.
Well, I didn't know where it was. You were asleep, so I'm not here having to go look for tools or figure out if I'm buying them again. So, underneath here, there's a couple of tubes I pulled out that came down to a bracket up under here. And my camera work is not too good. And you can see I'm upside down under the bike. That's the oil filter. You see the other pipe over there. I got a shifter piece hanging loose right here. I took that out, had a 10mm bolt in it. It went up to under here. And then the unit we're looking at, I'll play with my camera again so I make sure I'm showing it to you, is right there. So that's in front of the swing arm support that holds the center stand that I'm moving around, that you may or may not be able to see. Behind a bracket that goes to the motor, supports the swing arm, so it's part of the frame of the bike. And if you can tell up in here, there is a bolt right there. That is the hydraulics. So I'm fixing to attempt to figure out how to get all this crazy stuff loose. It takes 8mm bolts. I've got a 1/4" drive ratchet, and I'll start recording here in a little bit again. Alright, so what I did is I got a double swivel socket up in here, and you can barely see it to my hydraulic line, and it comes out right up there next to the shock. We're going to give it a go to see if we can break this thing loose. And you can barely see down in there the path. So, I'm going to adjust my little tripod here. See if this is going to do it good. See if I can get some tools. I need a good ratchet. On this one I got an extra extension. I remember having one, so there's one around here somewhere. Well, I need a little bit of 3" I thought I had a 6". There it is. 6" extension. Put the old ratchet on it. And start praying. Alright. Either it come loose or come off. And get down here underneath. It's an up and down kind of job. And see that that's got to be aligned. Oh, neat. A leg fell off my tripod. Cheap Walmart junk. Broke? Yes, it's broke. I think it's broke. Yeah, I'll have to talk about what happens to my equipment. Let's try to get under here with a screwdriver. There is no way to reach your hands to this thing. And see if there's any way I can convince this thing to get back on the bolt. Oh, there it is. again. Because I'll put these down and forget what I did with them. I believe I broke it loose. As it's turned. It's coming off again. That's the only problem. You can't see what you're doing on top when you're working on the bottom. Yes, it's loose. The fun part's going to be putting it back. Because I don't know how to get my hands in there. Let's see if there's a way to help this thing out. So it gives a couple of turns and then it wants to come off. And now you see it coming off right there. There it goes. Now I have to go help it back on. I'm not even going to take the socket and extension stuff out of here. I'm going to leave it. Uh-oh. Well, I was going to. Now I got to. Come on, Bessie. Behave. I ain't never seen nothing hang up in there like that before. There it goes. Only time you want to drop something, be happy about it. Let's see, how can the fella get his hand up in here in order to get the last few turns on this bolt that is technically loose. And I'm actually moving it a little. It's one of them weird banjo bolt deals. I know it ain't going back in that easy. Uh-huh. Alright, now it's loose. You can barely see it right there, but it's loose. And I'll have to take them two bolts right there, the 8mm back loose. So I'm going to put a pause on it and then come back when I get it out. I've already looked at it and it's nasty. Alright, I got the monster off. There it is in all its glory. It had been leaking down. I would be riding, and all of a sudden I'd press the clutch and nothing happened. So I bought the rebuild kit for it after reading some online about it. I'm going to take this thing in the garage and do a little rebuilding on it. And it was fun. It was a double stack line. You can actually see a screen down in there. I don't like it. The screen on the backside turns off and I can't tell what the heck this thing's doing no more. But anyhow, on to the workbench. Okay, there's the old parts that we change out. It was a center seal, an outer seal, and a spring underneath. There is no locking tab or anything, or locking ring like in a standard master cylinder, slave cylinder that I've seen. I had to repair the threaded bolt that goes in for the fluid. And that's the rebuild kit. You got you a part number. Thank you to eBay, K&L Supply, whoever they are. And I'm going to go back out here and show you what we did on the bike. So rebuilding the master cylinder was fairly simple compared to putting it back together. I wound up removing the gas tank partially in order to access down through here to get a 12mm swivel socket on the lines for the threads, for the bolt, for the lines. And I took all of that assembly apart. It was unnecessary because the foot pegs don't have to come loose. They don't help getting loose in the brake master cylinder, and everything for the rear brake seems to be attached. I also took that piece right there off, which is the lower fairing. Now the bleeder screw, from what they're telling us on good old YouTubers, is underneath this area right here, which means this whole side of the fairing would have to come loose. They do have this access panel, but I don't think that'll give me access to the bleeder screw, which is somewhere under there, and that actually feels like it might have access to something. So I'll look at the video later and figure out what that was, but it might. There's your bleeder screw. Let's make sure I get that on the thing. That right there. And let's get light on the subject here. That right there is the bleeder screw. I am almost certain. And I can feel a cap and everything on it. So I'll deal with that later. I don't want to have to take the fairing apart. But I still got to put the bike back together. And as of now, just by pumping the lever, I have most of a clutch. And what I did is I cranked the lever a bunch and then turn around, and you see some fluid will come out every once in a while. See right there, I've got about half a clutch. So if I use the bleeder on it, I believe it'll come back. It might be rideable right now. So there was 2 bolts right over here. They were 8mm that go down to there to hold those on. There's a bracket that went across here, and I took it off. It was 10mm bolts, and this bracket got put right here, and it went in such a fashion, and then the bolt went straight through the gas tank right there. It's a big old long 10mm bolt. It had a little bracket underneath right here that held through. That holds your reservoir for your rear brakes. So got some tubes down here still to put back together, which is mainly just rerouting and putting a zip tie on. Bunch of side covers, bunch of bolts and bolts and bolts. 15 new cuss words. No pinch fingers or busted knuckles yet. And realize it's time for an oil change on this poor thing. It's got 44,000 miles on it. It runs like a new one. But that's it. That's your slave cylinder. So, not for the faint of heart. And I'm going to start putting the bike back together. Kind of looks still new underneath almost if I get the dust off the poor thing.